Roberto Moreno was running 13th, Fernandez was 15th, and that's Gidley's car in the pits now for repairs. But they decided it was worth the gamble. They are the highest placed of the cars to come in and make a pit stop. A whole bunch of them behind also have been in. Michel Jourdain Jr. has actually been in a couple of times. So has Mark Blundell. Luis Garcia has been in actually 3 times. And the other PacWest car of Mauricio Guzman also has been into the pit lane for a top-up of fuel as we get ready to go green again. But with a 100-lap race and a fuel window here, a good 40 laps or so, quite easily 40 laps, 42 laps without any problem at all. You can probably get 45, and with if this is on lap 10, so they now have 90 laps to go to the end of the race. And these two Patriot Racing cars, we see them right there, the Visteon car of Roberto Moreno, the Ducati car of Adrian Fernandez, should be able to make one more pit stop and get to the finish. Everybody else,
Quite news for Paul Tracy on the streets. De Ferran, those done well. He scored 31 points on the street tracks. Not a bad effort for him. And good news for Adrian Fernandez, who scored 36 points as well. All of them have scored pretty consistently. The only man of those not to have won a race, of course, Kenny Breck, who lies in 6th place. He is the top rookie of the year. He's still termed a rookie in spite of all his American race experience in the IRL. But he doesn't really care about rookie of the year. I know that Kenny still working very hard. He knows he's got a chance at the title, and that team really, they've worked on the consistency, and it's been very effective for them so far. Look at this, Max I think has clambered out of his car. You can see the crash helmet at the side. Looks as though it's all over for the Italian.
Yes, indeed. It's clearly a terminal problem there for the Miller Lite car. That'll be a huge disappointment for him. And now we see Gil de Ferran now will begin to pick up speed and get the restart. And we will have 12 laps in the books when he comes past to take the green flag.
Second place, Jimmy Vasser. It's unusual, of course, to see the first target car being driven by Jimmy Vasser, but he's driven brilliantly all weekend. Qualified his spare car, leads them away. Vasser smoothly in second. Castroneves chased by Montoya. And then it's Paul Tracy, remember, in the green and white car as they head through turn 2. This is where we saw the incident between Papis and Gidley. The leaders have got through there safely, and we're now on board with Montoya. Heading up towards turn 4. This leads on to the longest straight where they're up to about 180 miles an hour at the end.
That's right, Ben, and this is the crucial corner. If you can get onto that straight quickly and get a good run on somebody there, take advantage also of the slipstream, and Castroneves there defending the inside line, but Montoya tries to go around the outside.
Banging wheels, look at this, and they're still together as they come into the next corner, but Castroneves has done it.
Brilliant.
Oh, great stuff.
Brilliant driving by both men there. They've both left another just enough room. Look at Tracy trying the outside now into turn 7.
Well, Montoya almost had that position away from Castroneves there, didn't he? But it didn't quite work, and the two of them racing so hard. A lot of respect between them, but Castroneves determined not to be outdone by Juan Montoya, and Montoya couldn't quite pull the move off this time, so he stays in 4th place. De Ferran is our race leader, crossing the line, 13 laps completed, and now we look back from Montoya in 4th to Paul Tracy in 5th, and Michael Andretti right behind him. Then it's Christian Fittipaldi. Alex Tagliani is in 8th. Tasso Marquez doing a great job in 9th. Tony Kanaan is 10th. Cristiano D'Amato 11th. And in 12th place at the moment, it's Kenny Breck. Castroneves knows he's going to come under attack again from Montoya as they head onto that long back stretch once more. Castroneves glances in his mirrors. Montoya waits to pick his moment to try and get past, but he's not close enough this time, and therefore Castroneves doesn't have to defend quite so vigorously.
No, he doesn't, and good stuff there, tremendous stuff on the last lap. This time a little bit more orderly there, and Castroneves just making sure, defending his line again there into turn 7, and making sure that Montoya doesn't lead down the inside. But look at this, side by side through there, and giving them both great credit there. He's trying to get the power on to get ahead of Castroneves. Castroneves maintains his line there, and the advantage in that great dice for 3rd place.
That was good. Now he's pretty close behind Castroneves again as they come down start-finish straight. But Elio covers the inside a little bit, makes sure that Montoya doesn't even think about a move down there. Bumpy here and very slow this right-hander, slightly off camber as they try and get the power on. 900 horsepower they're trying to put down. Not easy on this changing surface, and the bumpiness of this track playing in as well. This is the critical corner to get a good exit. Oh, and Castroneves got a bit tweaked up coming out there. That could give Montoya a little bit of light, but I don't think it was quite enough. Definitely Castroneves got a bit sideways, but again, he still managed to get off the corner quickly.
Yes, he did, and talking of traction there is absolutely crucial here. But what's interesting is there was a little bit of controversy after the warm-up this morning. Target Chip Ganassi Racing team boss, actually name is Chip Ganassi, if you can believe that. His team is pitted right next to the Penske's, and after the warm-up, he was absolutely convinced that the Penske's are running some form of traction control. He was basing that judgment on the way that the Penske cars left their pit stalls during that warm-up session. He was very, very upset, quite animated, and we'll see. I think the Penske, of course, was saying absolutely no way would we run anything illegal, and certainly nothing has ever been found on any of these cars, and nothing would really suggest that they were likely to do anything illegal for sure.
So back with the leaders, and Juan Montoya still in fourth place, can't quite find a way past Castroneves. Gilles de Ferran is race leader here after 17 of 100 laps. Jimmy Vasser second, Elio Castroneves third, Montoya fourth, and then this man, Paul Tracy, lies in fifth with Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi chasing after him. Alex Tagliani, there he is in the blue and white car, runs in eighth place. Behind him is Tarso Marquez, and what a great effort once again from the young Brazilian, driving the only Swift chassis in the field, I think. But once again, Tarso Marquez in a car that's been pretty much uncompetitive, you have to say, Jeremy, running in top 10 here today.
That's right, and what's interesting about that car is that both Marquez, he commented, and also so did Brian Herter, who's joined us for the qualifying show yesterday for pre-season testing, which was very disappointing by and large. However, Herter did say when they went to Firebird Raceway, it's a very tight, twisty course in Arizona, the car was very, very good indeed. And Marquez said the same thing. Marquez said that, you know, on this sort of track here, aerodynamic influence really isn't that important because the corners aren't fast enough. It's mechanical grip that counts on a track like this. And as Herter said, and Marquez backed him up, mechanical grip of that Swift is very good indeed.
That's right, most of these corners taking about 60 miles an hour coming through turn 9. Turn 10 is the final corner onto the start-finish straight right here. Again, about 55 to 60 miles an hour. Then they build up to about 150 miles an hour along the start-finish straight. There is Marquez once again in ninth place, just coming through that final turn, number 10. As I say, up to about 150 down here as they cross. It's about 40 miles an hour. Very slow in racing car terms and accelerating, trying to put the power down. This place puts the emphasis on mechanical grip. How much grip you get from your tyres, not so much how much grip you get from the aerodynamics pushing the car down onto the road. That really doesn't become a big factor here. And that's, as you say, why Tarso Marquez, perhaps with that Swift, has been running so well this weekend. Looking at Paul Tracy once again. Doesn't look to me, Jeremy, as though Tracy's got the sort of car he had here last year. Last year he was in absolutely dominant form. Even Dario Franchitti said afterwards, as one of the top street circuit racers, that he couldn't touch Paul last year.
No, it was pretty impressive, and as you say, he's now battling to hold off Michael Andretti here, and Andretti's teammate in the other Newman Haas car, Christian Fittipaldi, and those three cars certainly losing ground to the four ahead of them, which would be the two Marlboro Team Penske Reynard Hondas, driven by de Ferran in first place, Elio Castroneves in third, and sandwiching those two, Jimmy Vasser in second place, and his target Chip Ganassi Racing teammate in a Lola Toyota in second and fourth.
Elio Castroneves we're looking at here, running in third position, and Castroneves has actually scored more points in the last 5 races than anyone else, and has definitely put himself back in the championship chase. He's only 31 points behind his teammate Gilles de Ferran coming into this one, and as you mentioned earlier, Jeremy, 29 points separated Dario Franchitti and Juan Montoya at this race last year, and they ended up tied on points, so there's no reason that Elio Castroneves should be counted out as yet. He's 7th in the standings, but very much in the hunt, chasing Jimmy Vasser here, and Castroneves had to sit out the final part of final qualifying yesterday. If you cause a red flag in Champ Car Racing during a qualifying session, then they make you sit out 8 minutes, because the reason being that you might intentionally cause a red flag if you're running out of fuel or trying to perhaps disrupt somebody else's qualifying effort. So you always have to serve a penalty if you cause a red flag. Now, poor Elio, the reason he caused a red flag was that the plenum chamber blew off the top of the engine, took the engine cover with it. It was fairly dramatic, so it wasn't really his fault, but it did mean he had to sit out 8 minutes of yesterday's qualifying.
That's right, yes he did, and it was a very bizarre accident. We've seen that a couple of times this season, just blown the plenum right off the top of the turbocharged engine. Incredible sight. See the whole plenum chamber just sitting in the middle of the road and bits of bodywork all over the place.
Jimmy Vasser we're looking at here in second place, and this is great to see Jimmy running so well this weekend. He's been fast in all of the sessions, and out-qualifying teammate Juan Montoya. And this track really seems to suit Jimmy Vasser. He's had a bit of an up-and-down season, ran well on some of the street tracks earlier on this year. In fact, he had a third-place finish at Long Beach and a second place at Rio after that. Not a street track, but certainly a track that requires plenty of braking and turning. And Jimmy said they've actually gone back to the Long Beach setup pretty much this weekend. It seemed to work then, and it's definitely working again this time. He managed to qualify the spare car, having done no laps in it whatsoever, up until he had to leap in it and qualify, and yet he still managed to put it on the second row. So he was very full of admiration for what the team had done in providing him with a spare car that was right on the pace as soon as he stepped in it. Now, back on board with Juan Montoya, fuel conservation mode.
Yeah, you're probably right, Ben. They're running pretty consistently at the front of the field. They're lapping in 61.7 seconds. The last 4 or 5 laps have been around about the same. And Montoya, he's running just a little more than a tenth or so slower than that. So they're all running around about the same sort of pace. I'm sure you're right that Montoya now at this stage, he knows it's awfully difficult to pass here. It's still relatively early stages in the race, so just run a good consistent pace, and maybe the fuel strategy will come to him. That's what he's hoping right now.
Definitely, and looking forward, no doubt, to the new challenge that will be Formula One next year. That's all confirmed, of course, now. 2 years at Williams BMW, starting from next year. And he was telling us earlier this weekend that he's hoping to get in a fair bit of testing before the end of this year. He's looking to do some 9 test sessions, and they're all going to be spread between Jerez, Estoril and Barcelona. They're all coming up at the end of the season, really sort of through December, and it will give Juan Montoya an opportunity to reacquaint himself with the Formula One car, because remember, he tested very impressively with Williams the year before he came over to Champ Cars last year.
That's true, and logged a lot of miles for that team then, and it was one of those tests that Chip Ganassi went to see when Alex Zanardi went over to Europe to have his first test of a Formula One car. Zanardi, of course, had a pretty miserable season the following year, but Montoya was also testing that same day and was quite substantially quicker than Zanardi, even though, of course, Zanardi hadn't driven a Formula One car at that stage for about 4 or 5 years, so that wasn't surprising. But certainly Montoya and his then engineer, Maurice Nunn, were extraordinarily impressed by the young Colombian. Now we see why.
Yes, and it's interesting to hear the team comment on Montoya. They say how good he is. They're just stunned by how much he's improved too, how much he's learned, and his engineering now. So he really has a very good idea. When they make tiny changes to the car, he feels the car respond every time. Now, looking behind Montoya here at Paul Tracy, 4th in the championship coming into this race, and that meant he's now 16 points coming into this race, 16 points only behind Gilles de Ferran. There's Michael Andretti. Michael is only 5 points ahead of Tracy. They're all major players in the championship. And if you remember back a couple of weeks ago, St. Louis, what happened there was Michael had a big lead in the St. Louis race, only for the engine to blow up. Otherwise, he would have had a fairly comfortable lead coming into this one. And Paul Tracy, he looked set for decent points in St. Louis, but his transmission gave up, put him into the wall, and he didn't score either. So that was good news for Gilles de Ferran, who at the moment enjoys that narrow championship lead. Looking here at Roberto Moreno and Adrian Fernandez again, we saw them come into the pits early on, and that means they're running down the order in 16th and 17th this weekend though, didn't they, Jeremy, here?
Yes, they did. They were not at all happy with the setup of those cars. They made a lot of differential changes there, just trying to get the it's a differential that determines really how that power is put to the ground, and they were all sorts of back and forth, up and down on their diff ratios, and they finally settled on one here. They were pretty happy with the car in qualifying yesterday, but they were in the first group of...
De Ferran, Vasser, Castroneves and Montoya separated by only 5 seconds, pretty close at quarter distance here in Houston. Juan Montoya giving us the guided tour around